Did you know that a dinosaur has the same regression line as a star, the letter X, concentric circles, and a bunch of other shapes? This is why it's absolutely critical to visualize our data before building models. Let's go ahead and take a look at how we built this. So this is all the code that we need to build that chart in Python. We're going to import Seaborn, a data visualization library in Python, and we're going to import this as SNS, which is industry standard. We're also going to import Pandas, which is the critical data analysis package in Python. We're going to import this as PD. We're then going to create a data frame out of our data source dozen TSV worksheet. This stands for tab separated value. So this is very similar to a CSV. The only difference is our separator is a tab and not a comma. If you're not familiar with CSVs, don't worry. This is basically an Excel workbook. So we're going to create a data set called Dino. And then let's go ahead and look at the top 5 rows of our Dino data set. The head method will return the top 5 rows. So in our data source dozen, we have a column called dataset. We then have an X column and a Y column. Our dataset represents each of those shapes that we saw. So there are 13 datasets inside of this master dataset, one for each of those shapes. And each data point has an X and Y coordinate. If we were to look at the tail of our data, which is the last 5 rows, this dataset is called wide lines. This is the 2 lines that were separated by a big space. And we can see that these also have an X coordinate and a Y coordinate. So to create our linear regression plots, all we have to do is use Seaborn's lmplot function, which is going to build regression plots. We're going to specify that we're going to use the Dino data frame. Our X coordinates are going to be that X column, and our Y coordinates are going to be that Y column. We'll then specify that each value in our dataset column gets its own chart. So this is going to create a chart for each of our 13 datasets. We're splitting our data based on this category here. We're then going to give each of our datasets its own color, and then we're going to give our regression lines a nice pretty green color. This call wrap parameter here just says we want 4 charts per row. We're going to suppress confidence intervals on a regression plot, and then we're just going to set a height of 3 for our plots. Let's go ahead and run this now, and there we go. So with just 4 lines of code, we were able to build this regression plot. And now that we take a look, we can see that each of our charts has the same slope of the regression line. So plotting your data before moving on to modeling is going to save you a lot of headache when you realize that your dinosaur has the same regression line as a star. And if you're interested in learning more about this data set, I suggest checking out Autodesk's blog. They were the one that generated this data, and there's some very cool discussion about how this data was created. So hopefully you enjoyed this mini lesson, and stay away from the tall grass.